Quiet desperation is living stuck. I'm on autopilot. I'm on the hamster wheel. That's the first step. Do you recognize yourself? Fear knocked on the door. Faith answered, and no one was there.
What is quiet desperation?
Quiet desperation is living in your own with your demons, which your life monsters. You literally, um, it can be waking. It can be just before you go to bed. It can be in your dreams. If you wake up and you're stressed out about something that you know is coming up, like you got to make a house payment, or you got to pay your rent, or you got to buy groceries, and you feel your triggers. Like for me, my major trigger is my chest, and I can feel that anxiety, right? And I can feel that quiet desperation creeping in, because I'm desperate for a solution which I have no answers for. I don't know where to turn. I don't know how to be vulnerable. So now all of a sudden I'm talking to somebody about stuff, and I'm lying to them to cover up the fact that I'm in quiet desperation, because I don't know how to get out of where I'm at. I'm afraid to be vulnerable even to my closest family members, maybe my significant other, and I'm just living like that. And that quiet desperation wells up and it balls up. It causes physical health issues. It's been proven. You're tense all the time. Your brain isn't being healthy. You start going more to addiction issues. Maybe you're depressive eating. I've been there. And I'll be really honest with your audience, ASG. I literally, in 2023, I just went through some challenging things. I went to Europe for 3 weeks, popped into the UK as well, and I literally was enjoying all the food and just overate. I came back and I could have easily gotten back onto my nutritional and physical things that keep me without quiet desperation. But instead, I came back and I was like, oh my gosh, I spent all this, and I let that fear, and I forgot my own lessons. So I started quiet desperation again without even realizing. It took me months to realize I had slipped into something I'd tell people not to. And all the things that helped me get out of it, I had stopped. And I won't get into the personal reasons as to why, but I started depressive eating. I gained, right? I gained like 30 some pounds. Well, since July 1st of this year, I'm down 26 pounds. Why? Because it takes longer to lose than it does to gain, for one thing. Especially if you lose weight, you got to lose it smart, right? Because it can cause other health challenges. And I had to reevaluate myself and realize that I had fallen into the valley of desperation, quiet desperation, valley of despair, and I needed to get back on the climb. I didn't need to be embarrassed about my circumstances. I didn't need to um, be in quiet desperation. I had all the tools in place, all the people in place, but I avoided it because my brain was saying, no, 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 you don't want to do that. What happens if they say this? What happens if they do that? What happens if they go, well, you're the finance guy. You specialize in all this. Well, guess what? I'm human. I make mistakes. Quiet desperation is impossible to totally get rid of, but that's what quiet desperation is: not knowing where to turn, what to do, and putting on that mask and compartmentalizing all our anguish, our strife, no matter if it's financially related, tragedy in the family, lost a loved one, right? Quiet desperation is real, and hopefully that gives you a good enough snapshot.
Do you know who Rolf Potts is? The vagabond and
Honestly,
travel guy.
I've heard of the name, but I really don't know who he is.
I recorded with him a few weeks ago, and we were talking about, probably have heard the cliche of people traveling to try and find themselves and things like that, or people starting a new career to try and find themselves, or they disguise it as finding purpose, but it's not really. And he had a great analogy about it. But then after we stopped recording, he goes, there was like a great story that like a monk in Vietnam or something told him, which was, there are people that genuinely think they have to like do this some kind of mad discovery or find themselves, when they could go and travel with themselves sitting next to them and they wouldn't even recognize them. I thought that was just exactly what you're talking about with like the seeping in point, almost like you feel like you don't know who you are and you start to panic. And instead of using that as like you talk to people about finding their purpose, they almost, I call it like quiet settling, whenever the discomfort outweighs what you are, the unknown pretty much. And you just decide to slowly cut back on those good decisions, and like you talk about, like struggle eating and comfort eating and stuff, fall back in then. And I think that's something that people struggle with more now than ever, really.
I agree 100%. People struggle with it so bad. Just, looking in the mirror, do you recognize yourself? Um, I literally am trying to think of his name now. Very, the Chicken Soup for the Soul book
Oh,
author.
Jack
Oh,
Canfield.
yes, Jack Canfield. I've been on a couple virtual events where I've gone on, and literally Jack Canfield taught me this years ago, and it's you can find it in his writings too. Can you look at the mirror and at night or in the morning when you're brushing your teeth? Can you, when you're done brushing your teeth, can you look at the mirror for 1 minute? Can you look at yourself and appreciate yourself and say, what do you appreciate about yourself? What do you find that's good about you? What did you do good today? And a lot of times when I started that practice, I couldn't look at it myself. It was like, oh my goodness, right? I don't like who I see. You need to get to that point where you enjoy who you see in the mirror, because if you don't do practice self-love in an appreciation of all the good things that you do through gratefulness and gratitude, you'll fall in that quiet desperation. You'll fall off a cliff. And even if you fall off a cliff temporarily, if you worked on your life enough to live purpose, you can pull yourself back, or you'll have a tribe of people that will notice it. Hey, Dwight, you seem off. What's going on? You want to talk? Do you want me to talk, or do you want me to just listen? Or is this a meeting of listen and advice? I have that too. I do it for my own friends and family. I do it for what people I mentor, my clients. Sometimes people just want to be heard. And then you can listen to what they say, and I'll say, what happened here? What was the positive about it? Oh, I don't know. I never really thought about it. Oh, this happened and this happened. So your brain's been focused on the negative, but you forgot about the gratefulness of the good things that happened up to that issue, that challenge, that character building moment, right? It's teaching people to be aware is so important.
We'll go back to purpose a second because something popped into my head, which is, do you think purpose is something we find or we build it ourselves over time?
We're not born with purpose. We're affected and stylized into a purpose based on, still back to learned behavior. Purpose we find along the journey by learning to understand our mind and our physical connection to our mind and our emotions, what brings us gratefulness and gratitude and that warm fuzzies. Oh, wow. I never thought about that, Dwight. And sometimes people have to think about it for days, weeks, months, and we work through it. We have conversations. And it doesn't even mean once we get to it that that's the actual purpose. Maybe that's just the first stepping stone for their life, right? So purpose is found by looking on our inner self and realizing, oh my goodness, I really enjoy doing this. I don't like doing that. And I've been not liking doing that. And I've been stuck in that hamster wheel forever. And it makes me feel icky. It makes me feel gross. And just really being honest with themselves in those conversations. And sometimes you need a professional to help you extract those conversations and help you search for the real truth and not the lie that society or yourself or learned behaviors has driven you to. So purpose is found by really internalizing, hanging out with people that are positive, changing your associations of what you watch for television, listen to podcasts, watch TV, who you hang out with. So you by learning all these steps, and it takes time. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not hard either. What it is you have to be willing to invest more time in you than you invest in all those other associations that don't necessarily serve you. Ask yourself, is this serving me? Does it make me feel glad? Yeah, it does. It does serve me. What could that tie to in my life? Maybe I need to look at a career change. Maybe I need to change my associations so that my purpose can continue to grow and develop. And I want to be, oh, Matthew McConaughey, look what that guy went through, for an example, right? His book is super amazing. I listen to it on Audible because I like the fact that he narrates it and there's music with it, and it's just amazing. He went through his trials and tribulations. What was the theme there? He kept on keeping on because he was looking for his purpose. He realized that rom-coms weren't the way to do and didn't work for a couple of years because nobody wanted to hire him. but he understood his purpose. He didn't let Hollywood, he didn't let society say and pigeonhole him, right? He was looking for his purpose and did whatever he needed to do to find that purpose. And now he's a motivational speaker. He does so many more things, and he realized how powerful. He works a lot with Dean Graziosi. Him and Matthew do a lot of stuff together. People don't. You can look up Dean Graziosi. He's very, very famous, and they've worked together. And they do workshops. They do a lot of free stuff just to help people with their mindset, with their purpose. He's not talking about. He might use a story from his Hollywood, right? But he's not. His purpose is so much more than that. It was to change people's lives because he found his purpose through his journey. Hey, maybe you can do the same.
Matthew McConaughey says, so many people are obsessed with how to live longer instead of how to live better. I personally don't want to have the highest number and have my last thought as, didn't really enjoy that.
Live your life right now, present in today. Tomorrow is not promised. If you live today the best way possible and you learn not to ever have bad days, only grateful days, and only character building moments like I've been doing now, going on to my 8th year, not having bad days takes work. But at least I live by intent. So if I pass away, a tragedy happens, car accident, whatever the case may be, I've already been living my intentful, purposeful life. So if I die at 58, 68, 88, who knows? But I've worked at being that intentful purpose and not just always striving to have more and more and more and more.
Even I look around just like normal day-to-day life, everyone's really getting obsessed with like optimization in a way, like biohacking and like supplements and like these cold plunge things or whatever they're talking about now on Instagram. Like, what is it about the longevity that people seem to be obsessed with? Is it maybe the wrong focus?
People go, well, I don't want to be my parents. I don't want to be my grandparents. I don't want to be my aunt, uncle, friends because they can barely move and this and that. And I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to take these fountain of youth pills. I'm going to jump in an ice bath. And as a side note, ice baths do work for people that have major inflammation issues. It's huge here. You can go to stores. You can buy actually have it out in your backyard or in your basement or whatever, and it keeps the water cold. So depending on your health issues, ice plunges are good, but there's people that think that it's going to make them live longer. No, it'll give you a better quality of life for your current health. It doesn't mean that you're going to live longer. You're not hacking, the fountain of youth by jumping in a cold bath of water, right? With ice. Get some exercise, eat nutritionally healthy, find out about things. Always second guess anybody with the wonder drug to see what the positives are of it, or the wonder vitamin, or the ice baths, or stuff like that. And I've done all this research. I'm a very nutritionally conscious person because of health challenges with my children and myself and family. And just stay active. Don't be that person that's a senior that can barely move and function. Be that senior, work hard on being that senior that you can be happy and healthy. And if you have health issues, which are a reality, that's a reality. But don't worry about what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years from now. Live for today like today's promise and tomorrow is not. And if you live for today and always have gratefulness, you can face anything. And I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying it takes time, practice, and the right mentorship and coaching.
You obviously talk a lot now about living purposely, or in your words, giving a heck. Can you define living purposefully? Because I feel like a lot of people have different definitions.
So for me, purposeful living is understanding my needs and wants. What's the difference between them? Now, does my numbers, my budget, my ability to bring in income and expend it fit that? Does it fit what I'm looking for? Okay, what do I need to do? And then I have filters and workshops that I teach people how to, increase their cash flow and get rid of debt. I teach them all these sort of things so that they can actually live that more purposeful life and not live in fear. Oh, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to buy it. I'll pay it off. Oh, whatever. I'm just going to go buy this. And I'll say to clients, well, okay, you spent $500. What are your future bills that are coming next week? Well, I don't know. Okay, Do you ever have $400 payment, $300 payment, $700 payment come out and you just spent 500 and now you're in overdraft? Oh yeah. How does it make you feel? And I let them talk. How does it make you feel? Well, that's terrible. Well, I try not to think about it. I push it away. Well, how is that serving you? Do and then you find out patterns of people. They'd turn to addictive behaviors, can't wait till Friday to drink their faces off or get, whatever addiction they have. It can be sex, even, it can be TV. And then Saturday night, they're still excited. Sunday morning, they're dreading it because Monday's work again. And then on top of all that, they get this notification they've gone into their overdraft, or they're maxed out on their credit card or line of credit and stuff like that. That's not purposeful living. Purposeful living is knowing what's going on so that you can live that peaceful life, knowing you're going to wake up. You can't guarantee, if you're a business owner, that you're going to get that sale. You can guarantee as an employee or in a career that you're going to make money. Now, are you living with intent and purpose with that money so that you don't have those nights of quiet desperation, those mornings of quiet desperation, putting on a mask? So purpose is all about defining your journey and your path. And that's what I do. And I coach people to do that around the world.
How much is fear playing into the resistance people have with living purposely?
Wow, that is a great question. And I'm going to start off with something that people can actually find on my Facebook profile if they go in and look, that I have a little saying there about fear, right? Because fear is something that controls all of us because we don't look at fear the right way, right? Because fear, when we see that word and think of that word, people could be listening to it, our amygdala triggers right away, right? It does. Are we flight? Are we fight? Are we freeze? Right? So for me, when I'm dealing with fear, fear knocked on the door. Faith answered, and no one was there. So fear controls so many people because they allow it to. So for me, I had to learn that fear is an acronym. So many people say it's false evidence appearing real. That really doesn't help me. That doesn't really drive me. For me, whenever I am fearful, I think of the acronym that fear stands for face everything and rise. Face everything and rise. Nothing is that obviously. Now if somebody's coming at you with a knife or a gun, that level of fear is a little bit different. And you're going to have your amygdala and you're going to fight or flight or freeze, whatever the case may be. But fear controls makes people make bad decisions, because sometimes they'll go and do things because of fear, and they'll purchase something or they'll make a life altering decision. Not It doesn't have anything to do with money, because they're fearful because they can't see what's on the other side, right? So for me, if I'm fearful of something, I think to myself, okay, I'm fearful. Now let's take out that negative part of my brain going, oh, I'm scared, and think to myself, I'm going to face everything and rise. That's hitting me. That's making me feel fearful. Can I break it down? Can I assess it? Can I analyze it? If it's too much for me, who can I reach out to talk to that can see the forest for the trees, right? And that can help me, right? So fear doesn't control me, because my faith in the fact of people and myself to find a resolution to get past that fear that I'm fearing at that moment is there. I just have to seek it and train my brain. Remember, like I mentioned, brain's a computer. Doesn't know the difference between a truth and a lie, just like a computer does, and you input data. So if you tell your brain, okay, come on, fear, I understand, it's coming at me, faith's going to answer. I have faith that I can find a solution. I have faith in humankind that I can find somebody that can help me if I can't figure it and resolve it myself. So then it takes away all that fear, and then I just start moving forward.
The other thing that comes to my head whenever I think of people not living purposely, which is their attachment to money or the need for like an excessive amount of it. And you have a lot of experience in like the financial world and stuff. But when you started working in finance, or maybe even as you developed an experience in finance, were you surprised, or did you notice anything about just the attachment some of these people have to money? And maybe it does stop them living with purpose.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of patterns. We could do a whole show about patterns of behavior. I'm serious, and learned behavior. 24 years doing this, right? and I'm a work in project. And I literally always am working on bettering myself so I can be better for those around me. Because in order to serve properly, we have to love ourselves and understand ourselves and what triggers us. And literally, the patterns were always the same. It always goes back to our origin and our learned behaviors, our monsters, our life monsters and patterns of how we communicate, our mannerisms, or even our laugh. People will say, "Oh, you're like your dad, you're like your mom," but that's because it's learned behavior. So that same learned behavior, if your parents bought everything, took you on all these vacations, and as a young kid you heard them arguing and fighting about money, but yet they didn't do it in front of you. They hid it from you because people think you shouldn't tell your kids about your money challenges. Completely wrong. Obviously age appropriate, but you have to have conversations. I used to have them all the time. And the same things that I seen in myself, that lack of knowledge of where my money was going, even though I had lots of it, but yeah, I was still hitting overdraft or maxing credit cards out, was very scary. So in order to live a purposeful life, these clients are living by their learned behavior. Mom and dad spent everything, blah, blah, blah. And then they find out later mom and dad didn't have it. But yet, guess what? They start that same process because of learned behavior. Even though they're now acknowledging it as an adult, unless they have somebody helping them through that journey, creating that roadmap of success, that purposeful intent, they're going to follow the same process, right? Or their family had tons of money and it wasn't a shortage, there was no arguments, but now they get out of that family life and they don't have that same level of income, but yet they live at that same standard of income. Does that make sense? So now they start on their early hamster wheel of life. Mom and dad had a lot of money, but they're just starting out and they think, oh, I should have the, you know, I want the house with the white picket fence, 2.1 kids. What's the point one? You got a dog. At the end of the day, these people aren't living with intent. They're living the facade of what they've seen from their family because nobody ever shared the fact, oh, your parents are wealthy and your family's wealthy and they can afford all this stuff, but you can't. And your parents will say, hey, you're getting all this stuff, but let's teach you some life skills, right? Let's teach you how to live life on purpose and not by accident, and understanding that you can't have everything right away. Dad and mom had to go through the school of hard knocks. They're not vulnerable enough with their children. They just aren't. We're not vulnerable enough with our own parents as adults about our circumstances and why we can't go on this vacation trip as a family because we don't want them to think that we're not as good as them. Or the neighbors think, oh, I hear you going with your family. Or another family friend says, hey, I think you're going to do this and that one. Really, in reality, you can't afford it. Here's a prime example. People will call up one another and say, hey, let's get together. And they pick a restaurant and they go together and they have maybe a glass of wine, some food, and the bill's $80 for an example. And really, one can afford it, one could not. But one couldn't say, you know what, how about we just let's just get together at the local coffee house, right, and have a coffee. Or, hey, why don't you come to my house? You don't have to admit that you can't afford it, but you can learn to manipulate in a positive way to protect yourself and not get farther in debt. And I have that happen with clients all the time. You spend what on entertainment and going out? You're like hundreds of dollars every month in debt. Well, I don't know how to say no. Okay, how about we work on that? That's a life skill. I'll teach you how to deflect and manipulate in a positive way so you don't have to feel that you have to be like them. And really, in reality, you know what I found out, ASG? That other person, a lot of times, is in the same boat, and they're grateful because now they don't have to wait, go for that glass of wine, that nice meal, or whatever, and then they get the bill and they go, "Oh my gosh, that's another. I got to pay my part, and it's $40, and it goes against my debt." And their brains racing, and they leave, and all the enjoyment from that conversation is gone very quickly. And I see that time and time again, and it's all because we don't live with purpose and intent.
Will Rogers says that too many people spend money they haven't earned to buy things they don't want to impress people that don't even like. I think that works perfectly what you just mentioned about the splitting the bill. There's so many people that are doing this. Like it's almost like a status game now, isn't it?
Oh, it is incredibly a status game. Um, like my neighbors, they'll look at me and they'll have conversations, and I live in a community in Edmonton that's majority new immigrants, right? Nothing wrong with immigration. My dad's first generation Canadian. I'm second generation, right? Immigration's great. But you look at how they try competing, they're already stuck in that societal programming and how they're competing with one another, and they're barely making their bills. And most times they're not. They want to, and they compete with one another around. I live in a cul-de-sac or a crescent, which for those that don't understand, you drive in like a bottle at the top and then go around all the houses. And I talk to them. I help them understand, the ones that want to, and I'll say, well, why are you buying that? Oh, well, I'm part of our church and are part of our mosque or whatever, and I got to present myself a certain way. Well, why are you presenting yourself a certain way? Why don't you be your genuine, unique self, right? And like you said, like Will Rogers said, really, you're doing something for somebody that their opinion doesn't matter. You don't really care what they think, but yet you're trying to impress them. How about you just impress who you see in the mirror? And then work outwards from that, your significant other, your family, your friends, not to impress, but to show them that you can be unique and live a standard of life where you don't have to have a brand new vehicle. Mr. and Mrs. Client, or Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, why don't you buy a vehicle that's 4 or 5 years old? Oh, my family they just bought a brand new truck, a brand new car, a brand new SUV. And I said, okay, so they have lots of payments, and they're paying sticker shock for something that they drove off the lot and lost 30% of its value immediately. They could not even get it back 30 minutes later. They've lost that value. And now they've got payments, and now they're more month than money situation has gotten. Initially was okay. Now they're behind the 8 ball, or they just made their life even worse. Now they slip into quiet desperation. Now you know what I mean? They put on more masks to hide it all, when in reality, why do you care what other people have? Impress only one person. For me, I'm a Christian. I'm not saying anybody in your show has to be. I'm a Christian, and at the end of the day, I want to please me, and I want to love me and my life and live that purpose. Because the more purpose I live with, the more intent I have and the more compassion and empathy I have to serve humankind. I was put on this planet to do greater things than just be selfish and have a brand new car, right? Or have all these fancy things. And I'm not saying fancy things aren't good. If you have a purposeful life and you can do that fancy thing, good on you. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to say, if you're doing all that fancy stuff and yet you come home and everybody goes, oh, that's a brand new car. That's so beautiful. Oh, you got a brand new outfit or whatever. Oh yeah, I paid $200 for this shirt and blah, blah, blah. And when you come into your life house and you live that facade, and I open it up and I look at it and go, oh my gosh, you got home and you were stressed out because you really couldn't afford that. You impressed that person with that fancy clothing or that nice new bobbly thing, but yet you're sitting on your couch, you're sitting at your table, and you're shaking your head going, how am I going to afford this? You don't have that dopamine hit of somebody saying, oh, that looks it's good for you. You must be doing really well, when in reality you're not. So now your brain's going, liar, right? Right? And now you start beating yourself up.
Um, you've got a bit of a catchphrase, which is "give a heck," and I want to know this from your own mouth, because it is such a good catchphrase. In my mind, it obviously gives a different definition right away. But what does that mean to you, or how could the normal person give a heck more?
When people see that term, give a heck, they'll use it. Oh, you never give a heck about nothing and this and that. Well, for me, give a heck was to make them stop and go, oh, give a heck. Maybe I need to look this out. What is this? What's this guy talking about? Is this a satire? Is this something that is going to really serve me, or is it a joke or whatever? It draws them in, right? It's literally a call to action just with those 3 words. Give a heck. Oh, I want to find out more about this person. I want to hear more about this. So for me, give a heck is literally to be that trigger so that you can start the journey of self-awareness to understand, am I living purposefully? If I'm living with needs, more wants than I am needs, Am I really happy? Can I look at myself in the mirror? Can I, all the things I could go on and on and on, but giving a heck is literally was a trigger, utilizing my last name, right, as a brand. Give a heck, right? Why wouldn't I've worked hard as a single dad of 5 kids, even before that, being married, and throughout my whole life, chasing this way. You feel like you're on a treadmill and you're running and you're going to fall off and hurt yourself. And, or I'm on that hamster wheel. And the only time I get off, go to work, go home, get paid. And I get off and have a little bite to eat, have a nap, and I get back on the hamster wheel, right? So give a heck it just made sense because I've also followed with the phrase of helping people live life on purpose and not by accident. So they literally give a heck about your life. But how can I help them give a heck about their life? Or how can I direct them to my book, my podcast, my life coaching business, my finance coaching business, if I can't at least get them to stop in their tracks? It's like a subject line on an email. Does that make you read it if it's a good subject line? Absolutely. Headline in a newspaper. Flip, flip. The human brain, they already know scrolling, whether it's happy scrolling, doom scrolling, opening a newspaper, you got a split second to catch them. Now, if you're somebody and you're listening or reading somebody and you hear, oh, Dwight Heck from Give a Heck. What's that all about? Is that his, you know what I mean? It's you got to intrigue people to want to stop to do what's best for themselves.
Thinking about the younger generation, do you think it's kind of important to teach them when it's enough financially, emotionally, spiritually, those kind of things?
Oh, absolutely, it's important, but it always goes back to the youth, like the generations of younger people coming up, including my own children and grandkids and stuff, it's going to go back to that learned behavior, right? So it's so important to have them be properly educated, to not live the learned behaviors that have maybe caught their family in a conundrum, in financial stress, in living quiet desperation. Helping them realize how they grew up, the good, bad, and ugly. Oh, that's a good learned behavior. Some of these might not be so good. They have to be willing, though. So are you willing to work on that? Are you willing to change your life? Absolutely, young people need to be spoken to. My kids were raised that way to understand the difference between needs and wants. And now today as adults, if they'll be talking to me about stuff and they'll go, yes, Dad, we know, need or want. Right? I don't even have to say it. Is that a good learned behavior? Absolutely. Did they get learned behaviors from me that weren't so good? Yes. And we talk about it. Hey, yeah, back then dad was struggling and I didn't really understand purpose and blah, blah, blah. Let's talk it through. Well, Dad, you used to believe this. Now I don't. I have that honest truth to them. And young people from, let's say, 18 to 35 need to have that conversation to realize how much of their life is controlled and why are they where they at and how they feel, right? In order for them to live purposefully, they need to give a heck. They need to actually be engaged in their own life and not living on that hamster wheel that their learned behavior or their society has allowed them to be on. They chose it without even, they're unwilling a lot of times. Were they unwilling? People just follow norms, follow trends, right? So it's very important that we talk to the younger generations right from when they're children. I can teach you how to communicate with your young kids age appropriately about budgeting, right? Hey, go look at the budget. Does it show that we have a negative this month or a positive? Okay. What do you need? New runners because you blew a hole? That's a need. No, you want a new game? That's a want. That's not a need, right? Teach them. Be honest with them because then they'll grow up to be young, healthy adults. And if you're a young, healthy adult right now, you can still, it's never too late to give a heck. I help people in their 60s and 70s.
It's so good, that learned behavior concept, because it reminds me of the Albert Bandura social learning theory thing they done, and it was like they were trying to figure out how people learn things, because like obviously people in like all different environments learn things differently and they come to different conclusions, and they wanted to find the best type of people at analyzing actions, analysing behaviours, and analysing words. And they found that young to probably teenage-yeared kids were the best at learning through behaviours. They were the best at analysing people, because they found that the kids that had parents that took time to balance their checkbooks became more financially responsible as they got older. Kids that had parents who made time for each other became better partners in the future. And then they saw the other side, kids who had parents who at a certain point kind of just settled with what they had and never tried to improve. They struggled to take the jump in careers or just in life in general. They also found that the parents that stopped learning about things at a certain age, whether it was earlier or later, they struggled to pick up new skills. So they struggled to learn how to drive. They struggled how to read more complex novels. They struggled to get higher marks in school because it's bred into them almost that they can't hit those markers. And I think that learned behavior is so good whenever it relates to it, because it's almost like, I'm going to actually ask this to you instead of trying to explain it. Do you think we kind of underestimate how far our actions go rubbing off on other people?
Oh, people don't understand at all. Absolutely. Our actions are seen at a micro level by people of all ages. And here's what I mean by that. You can have children, they've proven scientifically their minds are developed by 7 to 8 years of age of what their patterns of behavior are going to be from who's raising them. And it already affects them. Does it mean they can't change? Absolutely, they can change, but it's a lot more work. It's like teaching a language. A young person can learn a language quicker than an adult, right? Our brains are so pliable when we're young. So absolutely, does it affect? It does affect, and their learned behaviors, by not understanding them, they're just going to follow the same patterns as their parents, as their grandpa or their caregivers or whatever. And if you start to teach them at a very young age, they're going to hear the positives in conversations. Let's say you have people around a table and little kids are running around, or 5, 6 years of age, and they hear you talking very positive about anything, health, politics, money. It's always respectful and happy and joyous. Guess what their brain picks up? That same thing. If you're always negative, if you are kind to somebody to their face and you close the door and then you badmouth that person, guess what they hear? Oh, I can be a facade, right? Door closes. Now I can speak my truth, not the right truth always, but my truth. And they hear you disparaging people instead of being, kind. They don't understand how to, and all they hear is somebody coming home saying, I had a bad day. And every day that person comes home and those young kids hear, I had a bad day. You know what's going to happen? They're going to grow up. And as they're growing up, I had a bad day. And people say, well, that's the reality of life. No, not really. The reality of life is what you've been conditioned to learn from society, from your family. You can train yourself to never have a bad day. Well, that's impossible. I am here to tell you it's not impossible. And I've trained so many people. I've done podcasts and videos on it in regards to living a purposeful life and living with intent and not having a bad day. Well, what happens if somebody got in an accident or there was a tragedy? One of your grandkids broke their arm or did this and do that. That's a bad day. Okay, now I just discounted the fact that I woke up today. I opened up my eyes and I was grateful. Oh my gosh, I got another day. I got another shot. What an amazing thing to happen in my life. Okay, I go through my day, I have a great call with a client. Maybe I hear from a grandkid or one of my adult kids or whatever. I go have a good cup of coffee in between a call, right? I'm grateful. All of a sudden, I hit a shitstorm after lunch, right? Maybe after lunch, something happens, and I just, oh my goodness, this has all happened. And then the traditional person, which I used to be years ago, I'm not judging people, I'd be in that negative zone. Well, how's your day today, Dwight? Maybe I'd go to whatever in the evening. Oh, I had a bad day. Really? Did I really have a bad day? Or did I have a defining character building moment? Right? And then when I go to bed at night, I assess all that. What could I have done better? Oh, maybe you shouldn't have done this, or maybe you can do it better the next time. So I'm always reevaluating. I'm always looking at my day and reassessing.
Such a coincidence you mentioned bad days because like I've been kind of like writing like journaling almost for the last like few months. So it's almost like teachings to myself, like learning myself out of like bad habits or bad thought processes and stuff. And bad days is one of them because I've always that person that I get plagued by bad days. Like the second anything goes bad, like my day's ruined. And I was like writing about it and I was sitting and I was thinking deeply and I was thinking like the days I say that are bad days, they're never all bad. It's like a pretty okay or average day and a few things that I don't really like happen and then you automatically put it as a bad day. But whenever you sit at the end of the day and you think about it, majority of the hours in the day were pretty okay. Or maybe they're just a little bit low energy, a little bit low effort. So the day wasn't actually bad overall. It was just okay. And you can have okay days. That's absolutely fine.
There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have a stellar day every day. You don't have to have a rocket going to the moon every day. You just have to appreciate the opportunity that you have another day. How many people, right? How many people actually think to themselves, "Oh my gosh, there's people in my life. Yes, I don't have to live in their world, but that I have so much more than them," right? We have homelessness in our city, right? I got a home. I got a roof over my head. I'm looking outside. The snow stopped, but there's probably an inch of snow, probably about 3 centimeters of snow on the ground, right? Oh, wow. I'm warm. I'm protected. I'm inside. I get to talk to this great guy. And when I'm at night tonight, I'll go, "Thank you so much for that great conversation with ASG. Thank you for allowing me to share my truths. Maybe my truths will help somebody," right? Live intensely, appreciate your day. You don't have to have a rocket science day where it's just amazing and fireworks are going off, but don't discount the fact that you had moments in your day that were good. Maybe somebody complimented you at your job. Maybe they said, "Oh, here, you look really good today. Oh, I overheard what you said. What a great conversation. Thank you. Can I ask you more questions about it?" Maybe you created a new friend at your work that just because of your kindness or something they overheard, or you know what I mean? That's a win. That is a win. For me, my wins as she happened the moment I opened my eyes because I won. I got another day.
So I've one last question, and it's more of a framework or action plan type of thing because I know a lot of people listening, like I've known from like past episodes and what people have picked up on, like they almost feel like they're kind of stuck in autopilot. And it's always, I can't remember now who it was on the show, but they were talking about how when people are in that default mode, the step two, three, four, five is actually pretty easy for them. Step one is the hard part, and that's the reason why they never get out of autopilot. So, say someone listening feels like they're stuck in autopilot, feels like they're stuck on default mode. What's the first practical step they need to take to start living more purposefully?
Well, if they feel like they're stuck on autopilot, first and foremost, just by them recognizing they're stuck on autopilot is the first step. And becoming one of the willing to want to change. Our 6 inches between our ears, right? Or 15 centimeters, wherever you live, however you want to look at it, is something that we really have to be willing to want to change. You have to go through that uncomfortableness. It's not hard, but it's uncomfortable because really our emotional state, our mental state control where we are. So when you start feeding your brain new information, picking up that good book, How to Influence and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, get that book. Or Magic of Thinking Big, or any of these books, that start feeding your brain something different in your programming. So now that you can have those conversations with other people and say, "Hey, I'm stuck here, but I was reading about this. I don't know how to implement it." So, how do you find those people? They're all over the place. There's free masterminds. There's people such as myself that can coach you, right? That can put some effort into you and help you actually not feel that way, right? You're not on autopilot forever. temporarily you're on autopilot. And by you saying, hey, I'm stuck, I'm on autopilot, I'm on the hamster wheel, that's the first step, is acknowledgement. Once you have acknowledgement, now you put in the different pieces in the puzzle to make your whole picture perfect. But it won't be perfect, but it'll be better than you've ever thought you could have had. So, number one step, acknowledgement.
Perfect. Dwight, where can people find you? What have you got out? What's coming in the future?
Well, the best place to find me is my website, giveaheck.com. So, giveaheck.com. You'll find out everything about me. You can go on there and check out my financial coaching, my lifestyle coaching, my speaking business, my book, podcast. Everything's on there about me. And you can literally, obviously, you could Google too about me. Um, what do I, for those that are watching, I don't know if I'm holding this properly. You can see my book. This is my book. You can find it on Amazon. Doesn't matter where you live in the world. You can find my book, Give a Heck, How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. That would also be a good step for you. For that person that feels like they're on autopilot and wants to understand how their origin can affect their life and what steps you can go to live a purposeful life, very little of it's about finance. It's about the human condition. It's about connecting and connecting with spirit and about moving forward. There's some stuff in there about goal setting. There's stuff in there about budgeting, but that's not the lion's share of the book. The lion's share of the book is a process of what I went through to get to that place of living purposefully. What am I working on right now? Well, I'm working on some bringing on another agent into my agency to consistently ensure that my knowledge is shared with others. She's very skilled, but I have other things that I can teach her. She can teach me so that I can expand and touch more people to live that intentful, purposeful life. Um, Working on workshops and stuff that I've had for years and implementing new stuff to educate and train and teach people and have more resources. Some of this stuff is going to be 100% free, right? You'll be able, don't matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to go on and watch a workshop that'll tell you how to go through all your numbers and increase your cash flow, manage debt, and get out of debt. Because some people think, oh, I'm in debt, I'll never get out of debt, ever. I'm stuck in that quiet desperation, right? There's always hope. You just need to be the willing. And maybe I can be that person to help you, even indirectly, just by getting my book.